City Council, Wednesday, August 4th, 2021 meeting to order. And we'd start out with Ms. Amory leading in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Roll call.
Bush.
Here.
Van Blaricum.
Here.
Isaacson.
Here.
Lanham. Here. Leonard.
Here.
Elkin.
Here. First thing on the agenda is public comment, and Fran Duncanson, our county board representative, has asked to be here.
So, hi, everybody. Nice to see some friendly faces out there. I apologize. I have not been here sooner with COVID and everything going on, but I'm happy to be here tonight. There are a couple of county issues that I would like to call to the attention of the residents of the city. And the main one I want to talk about is the status of the Polk County Recycling Center. The county will be working next week on developing a recycling ordinance. That ordinance has not been developed yet, so I can't give you any content of what it's going to say or not say. There have been some prominent county officials who have publicly stated that they want to close the recycling center and they want to turn recycling into being privatized and put the recycling onus on each individual municipality. I would not like to see that happen. The recycling center, some years it makes money, some years it doesn't make money. I view it as a service that the taxpayers need, and that it is a suitable and appropriate service for the county to provide. It's needed some capital improvements for a long time that haven't been done. So the price tag has gotten pretty high on doing those improvements. There was recently a study completed by FOF on the recycling center for the county. That study outlined the pros of keeping it open and the cons of keeping it open, both for keeping it open and closing it down. The county has a real opportunity right now to make the investment in the recycling center. It's a high price tag. It's $1 million. The county can make that investment if they choose to by using unrestricted fund balances. At the last county meeting in July, we voted by resolution to return $1.6 million back into the county unrestricted fund balance. So the money's there. It's a unique opportunity to be able to do this for the population and do this for Polk County with making a zero impact on your tax bill for that. Now, as I said before, some years the recycling center makes money, some years it doesn't. A philosophical difference I have is that I don't view it as a business that's there to make money. Nobody asks if the highway department makes money. Nobody asks if the sheriff's department makes money. And I don't think we should be concerned whether or not the recycling center makes money. We want it to. Sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. So the bottom line to me is in the study by FOF. If recycling is privatized and turned over to every municipality to have to administer that program themselves, take care of it themselves, it's going to cost each household in Polk County double of what it will cost for the county to make that investment and to keep the recycling center open. So tonight I'm appealing to a broad audience here. I know the Amory cable system extends far out beyond the city of Amory. So I'm going to appeal to city residents. Let me know how you feel. I'm also going to appeal to everybody who is not a city resident, who hears this. If you live in the town of Lincoln, contact Jay Luke. If you live in the town of Black Brook, contact Russ Arcand. If you live in the town of Lincoln, town of Alden, contact John Bonaprise or Joe Demuling. If you're in Garfield, contact John Bonaprise or Jay Luke. If you're in the town of Clayton, Clayton's on the Amory cable system, contact Tracy LeBlanc. you're in the town of Apple River, contact Dan Ruck. So I'd also like to give a shout out to the Amory Women's Club and their advocacy and everything they have done to advocate for recycling and to keep the recycling center open. So that is my thoughts on recycling center. I appreciate, all the support of the city council and everybody here as far as that endeavor goes. If we keep it open and we improve recycling for everybody in Polk County, including the people in the townships, getting them recycling bins out at every town hall, then we can take a look at those tipping fees. And we can take a look at that and do some analysis, possibly. I can't make any promises, no campaign promises. They can go away. Something else I wanted to mention, just briefly, I don't want to take up too much of your time tonight, is the county got $8.8 million in ARPA funds. And I look forward to working with city staff and city leadership here on how we can use some of that money potentially for infrastructure, for housing development in the city of Amory, something we can do possibly as a match with the city's ARPA funding to the county's ARPA funding. So everybody has some skin in the game here. Housing's been identified as one of the largest needs in Polk County by the Polk County EDC, along with the Amory EDC. So that is something that would qualify, is infrastructure, utilities. If there's any utility projects pending at the sewer and water plant, that is something else that may also be eligible. We are in the process right now as the county board of coming up with how we are going to evaluate projects and what process we're going to go through to award funding and help projects. So it's a good time for Amory to think about projects that they want to line up and something that they can do to utilize those funds. And then also something else I just want to mention briefly is last year, we were very fortunate at budget time at the county. I kind of led the charge on this and getting the library reimbursement raised. Was that 90%? We got it at 95%. I'm going to go for 100% this year. There'll be a little grumbling, but I'll do what I can for that. And maybe that's something hopefully that can help the city and help the library with the transition into the new space and all of those things as well. So that's all I've got tonight, unless you have any questions for me.
I assume, I would say, once you contact Patty, and we're going to be talking about these ARPA funds.
Yes.
So if you contact Patty to make a time, she'll coordinate everything else to make it happen.
Sounds great. Too, while I'm here, Paul, I got to give a shout out to you and for all of the work that you do on the trails and with the trail committee that you serve on and all the time and effort and energy that you put into the PTAG committee as well. Represents Amory very well.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Tom?
Thank you. My name is Tom Olson, and my family and I operate the Acme Junk Company over on Keller Avenue. And many of you may even know of my efforts. Certainly the council and the mayor know of my efforts to try and retain parking spaces in our downtown area. And I want to address that again this evening. I understand that the community is sick of the road construction. We are sick of the road construction. We want it over as fast as possible. But if as fast as possible is prohibiting us from looking at the long-term problems caused by the limitations of parking, I think we need to at least look at it and consider all of the aspects. We're going to live with what we end up with here for the next 75 to 100 years. Not too long ago, here at council meeting, I was amongst the people that heard one of the council people say, we need to make downtown Amory inviting. We had a different subject at that time, and that was our slanted, unwalkable boulevard. I look at our limitations in parking that are disappearing as also affecting our ability to be an inviting community. Again, it's going to affect what we do now is going to affect what happens here for the next 75 to 100 years. There's kind of three different issues regarding the parking. One is, and I think the least controversial, is the parking on Burke Street back from Keller Avenue. We just went out and measured. I was told earlier today that the parking cannot be closer than 30 feet to the crosswalk. We measured the last parking space on the south side of Burke Street before you get to Keller Avenue, and that parking space is roughly 22 feet. From the line at the end of that parking space to the crosswalk, or to the edge of the sidewalk, which I'm assuming is the crosswalk, is 60 feet. Parking space is 22 feet. So from the end of that last parking spot that's there now, we've got 60 feet to have a 22-foot parking space and a transition from the bump out back into the normal curb and gutter. If that does not, well, number one, everybody's invited to take a look. I don't believe there is any line of sight restrictions because of the corner of all four buildings that you can't see through the buildings anyway. So I think those four parking spots were not looked at sufficiently, and we're just kind of automatically eliminated in the transition to the bump out. That transition can occur before the manhole cover, so that restriction is not there. The second one, and that potentially, although I've only looked closely at the Burke Street entrances, that possibly could happen at the Center Street, both east and west, as well as Maple Street, east and west. Worth taking a look at. And potentially that could be four here, four there. Possibly, well, not, I don't, could be possibly at Maple Street too. So if it was at all four intersections, that could be 12 parking spaces left in return to downtown. Before I forget it, I'll tell you that there are currently 6 buildings in downtown that are unoccupied. I look at those 6 buildings as cancer to our community. I believe if we don't, I believe it's our duty to do everything we can to get those buildings occupied again. And as a business person, I'm certain that people are looking at our parking as something that could affect the success of their business in one of those 6 buildings, one or more of those 6 buildings. So I'm hopeful of retaining as many parking spaces as possible. On the Keller Avenue parking that goes from Burke Street in all directions, south and north, there's been a loss of, I believe, 2 parking spaces on each side of the, or at each corner on Keller Avenue. I've been given so many reasons for and who's responsible, who's not responsible for making changes in that. I don't know, still don't know exactly who is in charge of that, but I do know that we all are going to have to live with the consequences of not doing anything. The line of after debunking every other argument presented to me with the fact that all of those arguments included people breaking the law and going through that intersection as a safety reason, it just doesn't fly. We've got a stop and go light there. We have a walk, don't walk light there. We have a ticking timer on the crosswalk, letting people know how much time they've got left to cross there. I don't believe in one block in either direction, we have uncontrolled crosswalks, and there's not been a concern expressed that I know of about maintaining the line of sight visibility at those corners. The last argument given to me was that there's one legal maneuver that can be done at the Keller Avenue and Burke Street crossing that is a legal turn, and that's a right turn on red. If you're coming from either direction on Burke Street, you have the ability to make a right turn on red, and the visibility to the south, if you're coming from the east, is affected. Coming from the west, the visibility to the north is affected. The easiest, most simple solution to gain at least 4 parking places back on Burke Street is no right turn on red. The reason for not doing that was given to me as, oh, we can't have too many signs at that intersection. It may cause confusion. That as an excuse for not putting up no right turn on red signs and maintaining 4 more parking spots at those locations is, in my mind, it doesn't fly. The last one I'll comment about is the lack of a ramp entrance to what I used to know as the Standard Oil parking lot across from the bank on Maple Street. For 60 to 80 years, there was an entrance into that either gas station or now parking lot from Keller Avenue with no issues. And now to take that away, again, looking at being an inviting place to be, to use that parking lot, you have to turn and go down Maple Street, enter a one-way alley down Maple Street, come in that parking lot, and to exit the way it is now, you have to exit on the one-way going south. And even a suggestion to have the one-way start after the parking lot. Now you've got two-way traffic in a one-lane road to try to exit out onto Maple Street. And if we want to talk about confusion, I think that causes a lot of confusion. I thank you for your time, your consideration, I will again simply ask the board to consider whatever happens. It's going to happen for the next 75 to 100 years, because that's how long it took for our street to deteriorate, our sewer and water and all the other utilities there to deteriorate. So the decisions that you make now are decisions that are going to be affected by our entire community, leave alone the business community, for the next 75 to 100 years. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sam. Any other public comment? Okay, we'll move on. I have one thing to say is it's Chris Cruzy tomorrow night at Summer Thursdays, Michael Park. So come on down and have fun. So through public comment, consent agenda items. We have the minutes from the city council July 7th meeting, special city council meeting July 20th, board of review July 20th, plan commission July 6th, and committee of the whole July 20th, 21.
Motion to approve consent agenda items.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. That was me. All right. Okay, number one, mayor's proclamations. So I'm going to start up here. I'll read the proclamation and then invite you up for a picture taking opportunity. And then you can move on and get back to your life.
Are you going to do Dennis first? Or are you going to do the royalty first?
I was due royalty first. Okay.
So last year, just a little history lesson, I guess. Last year, due to the pandemic, the Amory Royalty Court really did not participate in a lot of events. So we decided to give them an event, especially a nice formal event. Don't they look good tonight in their formal dresses? We started Amory Royalty Day, and so today the mayor's going to proclaim today is Amory Royalty Day. We have plaques for each one of the young ladies, along with a small token gift and pictures, and I'm sure they'll show up in the paper, right?
I don't know if there'll be space, but I can see what I can do.
So, go ahead, Mr.
All right. Thank you. All right. Okay, the mayor's proclamation recognizing the city of Amory's Queen Court, August 4th, 2021. Whereas the Amory Queen's Court, having been crowned for the 2021 year, whereas they will have successors crowned at the Amory Fall Festival in September 2021, whereas the city of Amory Common Council recognizes the Amory Queen's Court's dedication to the city of Amory as true ambassadors of the area. Whereas the city of Amory Common Council will now recognize that at their monthly regular city council meeting in August as Amory Queen's Court Day. Now, therefore, I, Paul Isaacson, mayor of the city of Amory, on behalf of the Common Council, the citizens of Amory, and city staff, wish to recognize Miss Amory, Deidre Meyer. Come on up. And first princess, Reese Benware.
Yeah.
Second princess, Miss Congeniality, Ella Gould. Okay, I didn't see her. Okay. Third princess, Lily Markman. Fourth princess, Riley Thompson Zemer. And little Miss Amory, Penelope Gehrman, to express our heartfelt appreciation for dedication to our community. So. All right.
The mayor in there.
Let's give them all a proclamation. Deidre, right there. There you go.
Hand me those other ones. Can you take those other ones?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, girls.
And now we have a mayor's proclamation and recommendation recognizing individuals named in house fire in June of 2021. Whereas the following EMS police and citizen who rescued a mother, grandmother, and 2 grandchildren from a burning house on Maple Street in Amory, Wisconsin. The named are Police Officer Pete Crummery, Paramedic Ben Nyland, Amory Area Medical Technician Josh Hoffman, and Citizen John Jeske. Now therefore, I, Paul Isaacson, Mayor of the City of Amory, on behalf of the Common Council of the citizens of Amory and the city staff, wish to recognize Police Officer Pete Cromley, Paramedic Ben Nyland, Amory Area Medical Technician Josh Hoffman, and Citizen John Jeske. Express our heartfelt appreciation for their dedication to our community.
One thing, Mr. Mayor. Those guys did a very heroic thing on June 3rd there. I happened to be at home and not working at the time there. I was in my yard. I heard the fire trucks, but they were coming in from Apple River, so I figured something must be amiss there. So I got over there a little bit after, but I was able to see the body camera footage of Officer Crummery there, and what they did was just pure heroic there. They broke the window. Well, actually, John broke the window out there, so I still won't fight this winter. I'm inviting him. Officer Crummery, they were able to, with the EMT help, were able to get 4 individuals out of a window there, and in my mind, they would have perished if their actions wouldn't have been taken. So thank you, gentlemen.
All right. And I have one more. Proclamation recognizing Dennis John. Whereas Dennis John, founder of the Amory Pickleball Courts, has dedicated much time in implementing pickleball in the city of Amory. Whereas the city of Amory Common Council recognizes the dedication served by him towards the pickleball court, and he will always be remembered for that. Now, therefore, I, Paul Isaacson, Mayor of the City of Amory, on behalf of the Common Council, the citizens of Amory, the city staff, wish to recognize Dennis John and express our heartfelt appreciation for his dedication to our community. Thank you, Dennis.
I'll give it to the family or.
Okay.
Okay. So, there was also a sign you wrote down at the courts, correct?
No, I gave that to the family,
Okay.
and Ron is going to hang that. So we did provide a sign.
There will be a sign down at the court. So Dennis was a good guy. He was a big proponent for the sport. And now if you go down there on a Monday, Wednesday, or Friday morning, you got to just wait your turn to get on a court. So it's becoming a big thing. So it's good.
Good. Thank you. All right. Next up, 112 Highland property dispute. So where did we start on this?
There's a little more information. I drove by and looked at it.
I got some paperwork too for you guys.
Butterbuck.
Just pass them down.
Several things occurred to me though when I drove by that. I certainly understand what Joe was talking about as far as the excavation. I see what was started and how, I don't know, how long ago was that started? In here, something I should be reading, I suppose,
August 26th. I mean, excuse me, June 26th.
so a little over a month ago. And so what was the purpose to the excavation? Does it just to make a flat spot?
They actually have a permit to put up a fence and to pour a slab.
Okay,
And this, I don't know.
And who belongs to the fence?
I'm sorry,
Who belongs to the fence? You guys
We
do?
own the cyclone.
we have the cyclone fence
Yeah,
and they're
yeah.
putting up one of their own.
Okay. Okay. And do you know where the property line is? Is your fence on the property line?
It's about 3 inches
3 inches the other
the
side,
other side.
us to the cyclone fence.
Oh, so you're 3 inches in on your land,
To
your
the
property?
west,
Huh?
to the west. So we have 3 inches, about 3 inches to the west.
Yes, of the cyclone
cyclone
fence,
fence.
okay, all right. So, I don't know, now question, do we have excavating permits?
Not for that purpose. I don't believe.
It's just a retaining wall, isn't
It's
it?
just a retaining wall, so.
The only thing I noticed on the whole thing, and I see the maps and I see what's going on, but that water runs from your house down towards their house. It looked like it was a pretty steep bank there. And was the purpose for them to put the retaining wall in to level that out so the water doesn't rush to their foundation? Do you know?
You would
I
have to
don't-
speak with
I
them.
don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what they're thinking.
Okay.
So the biggest, well, maybe two issues, I don't know. There's not a statute against putting cement right on the property line, is there? You can do that. In fact, the only statute that really applies now, and that fence has been there for a long time, but now we have a fence ordinance, which we haven't had for,
That you could put the fence right on the property line.
yeah, until what, 5 years ago or 4 years ago or something like that. So the real issue then is the fact that they dug it out and haven't done anything with it for,
Have you been up there?
yes,
It's now it has eroded
yeah,
and now collapsing.
yeah. I saw it, the
Okay,
fence posts are exposed on the bottom and so
And
on.
it's only beginning.
Yeah.
So
But
we're
that would probably be remedied if they had put the retaining wall up and filled it back in like it should have been done.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
So have you tried talking to your neighbors about this?
No.
Has the city made contact with these people at all?
I think Ben has.
Okay.
I have, and the building inspector said,
And so what's the consensus?
What's the
there's
issue?
no permit or restriction against putting in a retaining wall. They want to do it, are they doing it the right way?
Is there a completion time on it?
Well, you don't need a permit for it, so they don't have to give us this.
But do they have a completion time?
I don't know, he didn't talk about that. The thing you came in to get was a permit for the fence and for a cement patio to be completed by the end of the fall.
A fence?
A fence, yes.
So that
I would
has
also
to,
like to intervene. Keep in mind, as it says, Robert does not own the property. Nancy does. So Robert really, do you tell me, can he sign any paperwork or permit if he's not a property owner?
I don't know,
I'm
that's,
just saying in general, I'm just saying
Yeah.
for a permit, do you need to be the property owner or just somebody that lives there?
I don't know.
It says property owner at the bottom, I think
Contractors
we're
sign
fine.
those things all the time, so I don't know, a responsible party, I'm guessing, but I don't know. But so if they applied for a fence, does that mean that the fence they put up has to be 3 feet from the property line now?
No, the fence can be on the property line, but I don't know why they put a fence on top of a retaining wall. That wouldn't make much sense. but-
I was gonna say you'd have two of them 3 inches apart, right?
Yeah, so they could do it.
Is the purpose of fence or the purpose of retaining wall? Just a retaining
The
wall.
permit that they got is for the fence and concrete slab patio.
Okay.
The
But-
retaining wall, like I said, you don't actually have to get a permit for that.
So,
No, but I would think they do have to be responsible. You can't just excavate and let, your neighbor's fence fall in because you excavated to the property line. Building inspector. I don't know.
We can speculate all night long and we have a long agenda ahead of us. How about somebody from the city go make contact with these people, see what their agenda is, see if they're having issues, see if we can mitigate and resolve this. I know this is annoying to the neighbors, but I mean, let's, maybe something happened. Maybe they got sick, maybe they got whatever. We don't know. We're just speculating at this point to see if there's something we can do to resolve this.
So we'll contact them. Yep.
The other issue is the skid steer. It's a real eyesore and it's on your ordinances. It cannot be on a single dwelling property. So we would like that removed. It sits in between our houses. It's a rude awakening to wake up and look at that. And nothing is being done.
That's
I
why
would like
we're gonna
that,
have
we
them.
would like that removed.
Please be a good neighbor and, let's work through this issue. I know it's annoying. I know it's, not pleasant to look at that stuff, but let's work through the issue.
I don't know that it takes council action to resolve that, but they gotta put up silt fence and stuff like that when you disturb ground, period. So
That's right.
there's no reason anybody should get by any cheaper than the rest of the contractors do. So.
So the resolution is the city's gonna contact and work with the property owners to
And are we gonna be contacted or what's next for us?
We can let you know what, that we contacted them, we talked to them, and we'll discuss. Yes.
We'd appreciate that.
Yeah, we can do that.
And if our inspection gets involved, that would be great too. If we found that.
I don't think they will, but I'll let you know.
Okay.
Could I ask why the inspector isn't going to be involved in this?
Not for a retaining wall.
I mean, they have violated several city ordinances. They are doing something that they do not know how to do. And I'm serious,
Yeah, that's fine.
it should be inspected. If they're gonna do it, they should do it right because it's impacting our property.
Yeah.
And we're fortunate that it's a dry year. That 2.5-inch rain that we had, that dirt embankment started to collapse.
Well, I think we did talk, if he does go there, he wants
Correct.
police to be there with him, so we can do that.
Thank you.
We just have a little postage stamp in Amory and we're just trying to live in it.
Okay.
So thanks for your
Thank you.
consideration.
Thank you for coming. Okay, number 3 on the agenda, Eric Henningsgaard Soldier Field feasibility study.
You have 2 minutes to get this back up. I'll be quick.
All right.
Yeah, Council Mayor, I really haven't prepared anything. I got asked
Yep,
to
no, that's fine.
attend, maybe to answer any questions. Spoke to Ben briefly about this. We had looked at Soldier Field back in 2015. And if you may remember, we're looking at as a potential Momentum West certification through that program and some different things. I'm sure some of you are aware of some documents provided to Paul Schaefer and the Amory Development Corporation for Bobber Park. That similar kind of thing can be looked at for Soldier Field as well. So I would say the biggest thing with that, is that it's wet. It's a swamp. Borings will go a long way in telling a potential builder what is there.
Well, there's 2 pieces of land there. There's where the old football stadium is, and I think that's the piece where the football field was. And that's built up pretty well. And we know the triangular piece that runs along Airman does get wet where the softball field is. So it would be nice to know, I guess, if we could, the football field part, how what the soil bones are. Bones, I know dug a 6-foot hole. 2 summers ago, maybe, it was 3 summers ago, and he left it open for a week and never filled up full of water, so that was his test, but there was no standing water there. So I mean, until the soil borings are done, we don't know.
Yeah, you could, you know, put in, as one of the soil borings, you could put in groundwater monitoring too, to know where that groundwater is and see if it fluctuates. Options for there, but yeah, I could pull something together of some different things that we could do to look at it.
Okay. And I think with that property, people see Soldiers Field and they believe the entire thing is Soldiers Field. And I think you bring up a good point in that it is 2 different parcels.
Yes.
There's the one that's on the north, I'll call it the northeast corner, I guess, and then the southwest corner, which the southwest corner does get wetter.
Right, and part of the
So
thing
is
is,
the northeast. Northwest, I mean.
yeah, but part of the thing is that hill is carved out of sand from the river sand. So who knows how far that goes down, but Eric's got pictures showing that just north of there, there was a river or a creek running between South Twin and Apple River that had a bridge on Main Street going across there, and then there was a sawmill there, so we know where all the sawdust came from. So, yeah, he was a good detective.
Yeah.
So do we need a motion to spend some money to get that, or to just ask Eric to give us some options to?
I think that'd be, that you can do, can't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it sounds like it's important for anybody going into that not to have to spend money to know what they need to do for stabilization, or they have to put filings in how far down.
Yeah, well, that won't
The
happen.
boring, no, I understand, but what's under there is going to be helping decide for anybody that's interested what they want to do. So I think we need to do it.
And then you're a supervisor on
Chair
chair?
for Blackbrook.
Okay.
So that's a whole different hat. but Yeah.
Can you do something about fleet supply?
We can write some more letters. Now we have an opportunity for enforcement.
Yes, we do it with Polk County, so.
Yeah, well, and the town of Blackbrook have been rewriting their ordinances.
Oh, okay.
And have teamed up with some enforcement options. So
Okay,
we have more options than we had a year ago.
good.
So if I don't know what you're talking about, I'm sure there's others that have no idea what you're talking about.
As you drive in from the south of town, there's that place with like 4 cars sitting there, the old gas station, and it's got piles of
Oh, okay.
garbage out front.
Looks like
And the
old
whole thing's
copiers.
full of
Yeah.
garbage, so
Like copy of reclamation or
Mhm.
something.
anyway, thank you.
Thanks for bringing that to my attention, right, Eric?
Okay, confirmation of Ethic Board nominees.
Guess I'll make a motion to accept the listed slate of Pat Donahue, Brian Burns, Steve Scheidler, with alternatives Brenda Utgard and Dale Johnson.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Downtown parking sign, Maple Street parking lot. Now, we brought this from Committee of the Whole, I believe. I know Tom addressed the Maple Street parking lot a little bit tonight. Downtown parking signs, or do we have to make a decision on,
the 2-hour parking,
yeah,
I'd make a motion that we do not post 2-hour parking signs.
or any parking signs?
Right.
Well,
Do you want to limit
there
it?
might
No
be the
overnight?
overnight parking one, which Chief Marson mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, Tom had expressed, some parking concerns there, and I'll be the first to admit that over the 30-some years I've worked here, 2-hour parking enforcement has not been a big issue unless it's been brought to our attention there. One of my concerns is the fact there that a lot of these businesses on Keller Avenue really have no other place to park for their employees there. And where are they gonna park? Not singling out anybody, but will they park on Keller Avenue where these spaces are limited and things like that? That's one of my concerns. And if we eliminate the 2-hour parking there, what we have left is our winter reparking restrictions from 2 AM to 6 AM. And then we have a 48-hour where a vehicle can be parked. So in essence, a vehicle could spend 47.5 hours on Keller Avenue, really without us having any enforcement action there. I don't think that the 6 to 6 parking there, I guess I don't know if, when this survey was put out, if it was explained that it was 6 to 6, because I know that there was some talk from one business there about the music on the river and things like that there. But those are just some things that have.
I think the email went out without any context at
Okay.
all, so it was just.
But either way, I would ask that the council, if they decide on no parking for Keller Avenue, that they eliminate all the signs throughout the city, and if they go for it, that all the signs should be replaced there, because over the years, they've been hodgepodge with stickers and different things like that, and it really does look terrible there, so.
I think you can do no overnight parking. That's, that's a reasonable thing. That parking ordinance was there, and I've been coming to council meetings for longer than Olson has. It was put in there primarily because we had 5 bars in one block down here. And the old guys used to set in the bars, heading from 9 in the morning till 1 o'clock the next morning. So personally, if I owned a business on Main Street, and my employees parked in front of it, they wouldn't be my employees very long.
That is an option as well there, that you tell your employees, no, they can't do that.
I don't know, since that ordinance we now have parking from Maple Street all the way to Center Street, or Center Avenue, Center Street, on the east side. And we have parking lot down there and a parking lot behind the junk shop, and we have a parking lot here. Pardon?
Private junk store. It's owned by Warren again.
Yeah, well, that's not exactly private, but
They've got it posted, no parking unless you're a Warren again customer, or your vehicle will be towed.
sounds like a problem that, that they need to resolve that.
So on the side streets, are they posted 2
They're
hours?
posted different thing, yeah, in different areas there and stuff like that, that have been inconsistent. I know that Burke Street East there's really no good locations to put some signs there. We've had some concerns over there over the past few months there, but the signage just where they could be placed and different things like that. My main reason for bringing it up is, and I brought it up before, was the fact that if the restrictions are eliminated and the signs put back up, that a call to the police is not going to do us any good if a car has been parked there all day or whatever like that.
Well, maybe this is something we should come up with a comprehensive plan, because we don't have to, the holes will be for signage in the street, in the sidewalk, in the boulevard, I should say. That for future use, so they don't have to be used, but they are there. And we could leave them there.
Well, my motion was for no 2-hour restriction.
I'll second that. With an amendment, we remove the hour limits on the side streets.
Yes, I think that's.
I mean, if we have no hour limit on Main Street,
Why
why should we have hour limit on side street? Which is really kind of the overflow.
There, then
Mhm.
why have them on the side streets then?
And then
And then it's a
hopefully
free-for-all.
the employers will, because I mean, where are these people parking now? I mean, all your employees park in the alley, and everyone else is parking in the alleys now, so why can't they keep doing that once the streets opened up? then hopefully the businesses will police themselves as far as the
Right.
employees parking on the street.
And then what about the no overnight parking?
Yeah, and that's, I guess, my question is
Yeah.
the
If that
2 hour parking only, is it from,
What time of day?
yeah, what time of day?
Well, you suggested 6 to 6.
Well, the original ones up there were 6 AM to 6 PM, although the ordinance was different than that. But it also included no overnight parking from 2 AM to 6 AM. If we're gonna redo that, although we haven't enforced it after 2 AM, generally it's 4 AM or whatever like that, we could modify that to 3 to 6 AM there. So you're still putting up signs.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
we need a
So we have to
comprehensive
put
plan.
it
I think we
in
do.
the hours are.
Let's
Okay.
send, I would think.
Let's vote down this proposal.
We're kicking it down the,
No,
down
we're
the
not.
alley.
We never looked at it as, with Chief Tom's input. You're right, there's a lot of inconsistencies throughout the city. We need to fix that.
Well, and I think you need to have citizen input as well. I mean, it's not just a business owner issue, it's also the people that are living here and parking and visitors, et cetera. It's not just a business owner's
Yeah, we need to
decision. I
decide
think
what
we
time
need,
of day it's,
Right.
you're
Then-
talking about, then there's overnight parking, then there's.
Then I will bring
winter
up
parking.
another issue for it that should go to this comprehensive study. The city-owned parking lots are off-street parking for at least the residences that have apartments overhead of the buildings on this side of the street. I know that causes Mahoney some heartburn because he's got a plow around them where we don't let anybody park. I can't park in front of my house and that's okay. If I want my snow plowed early, I just assume not park in the street.
Sure.
But that does put an issue in that all these folks that live up here are getting free parking and they don't have to move their car when it snows or anything like that. Just something to put in the committee that.
Streets and public
yeah, I think in
municipal
general, we need to
parking
look at our
lots.
current
Anyway,
ordinances.
Actually, our ordinance on parking also pertains to parking lots, although we rarely got complaints on that. I know that Jeff down by across from, same one every time. The rubber bank area is that people from the high rise will park in there and leave it there for an extended time that we have dealt with and things like that as well there.
Yeah. Well, this parking lot out here, like I said, that's used all winter.
Well, and perhaps then maybe there needs to be signs in the parking lots as well, that there's no overnight parking, or maybe it's limited to certain areas or certain strips or whatever.
That
because-
was done by city council action, so.
Okay, well, it's time to review it again, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have a motion.
So
and
we
a
have a
second.
motion made and seconded,
Seconded.
call the roll, and
we call the question. Okay, so let's, any further discussion? Oh, we're done with the discussion. All right. All in favor? Any opposed?
Aye.
All right. Doesn't pass.
Okay, so we'll discuss it. for future.
Okay, Tom, do you want to come up with like an outline for us and what
Yeah,
would
that's-
kind of work?
Yeah, I was. gonna
Work, and then
ask
we can-
Tom, you
I can
have the
work on
best
that, yes.
Experience with that and then kind of some ideas of
oh,
where there's problems and where there's.
I think Tom and Jeff
Yeah,
and
I said
Ben.
Jeff
need to
Right,
get
yeah,
together
right.
and-
Certainly, we gotta bring Jeff into that, we'll bring Ben into that as well there, so.
And when we're having that discussion, I think we should also be thinking about cohesion and signage for where parking is for people when they come into town. Right, so a sign that
An indication
parking
that
this
shows
way, or
parking.
this way, or. wherever.
Exactly,
Right,
I
but-
believe it's good signage when you come into our community,
Yes.
what's down there, and what maybe a municipal building down this street, or, city parking
What do they call it?
and things like
Wayfair
that. So,
parking?
Signs that say municipal parking lot.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, there's a program you can get and you have a uniform signs throughout the city community. Make it look nice. Okay, any further discussion on Maple Street parking lot?
Well, I guess I'm not privy to what's actually happening at the Maple Street parking lot. I
What would
didn't-
happen if you took the Maple Street parking lot and you put an entrance going on to Maple Street? Then you would have the two-way,
Right,
we can't get another one onto Keller, we know that.
right.
That's not happening. But but we could put it on the Maple Street. It's
gonna-
not that big a
It's
deal.
gonna
Would
remove
we lose
a
a spot?
spot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But if you
But it
put it on the
opens up
Keller, you're
20.
gonna lose
Gaining
two
one without a
spots
ramp
anyway.
on Keller.
Yeah, you'll be able to gain more inside that parking lot too if you do that.
Without a ramp, we've already gained one on this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So. But I agree, it's a mess to go in a one way and then.
I was gonna say, if you make it a one-way ramp, then it only has to be what, 12 feet wide, maybe?
If it's a one-way, you could get by with that, especially for if it's just, you know, normal.
In one
Mark it
place
in
and
and
out
out.
the other place?
Market, oh, yeah.
Mark in and out.
Yeah, I think mark in and out, and that way you don't have any confusion as to far as what way people are going, and it can be as narrow as
Yeah,
possible.
one way in and on to the street up.
That might require 2 signs. I don't know. Do we have space for 2 signs? I'm being just like that.
Well, I don't,
Ooh, who's snarky tonight?
Tim has to say.
hey, my motion got voted down, but you know.
I-
So we'll continue to look at that then.
Yeah,
Yes,
I
an
think that
option.
that's definitely an option.
Sooner the better.
Yeah, yeah, the sooner better. So
And then
maybe
we'll try to maybe get you something by committee of the whole,
that'd be good.
That'd be
and
great.
then we can move it to September.
Is that gonna be soon enough for concrete pouring?
Well, we can do this anytime
Okay.
because it's on our dollar. We gotta knock the
Yeah.
curb out. and-
Curve and stuff.
Yeah, the curb already exists there.
Oh, it
That
does.
spot, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I'm sorry.
Okay. Item number 6, pay request number 4 for A1 excavating.
All right, so A1 Excavating has submitted pay request number 4. I think you have that on your tablets. The total payment that they're requesting is $99,911. Most of that is for work on the south end, so kind of Elm Street down to Broadway. If you look in there, it's kind of itemized for curb removal, the force mains in there, there's sanitary structures in there, things like that. I've reviewed these quantities with Drew. We've looked at it and we're okay with approving the quantities. We've checked with our funding department and A1 is current on all their payrolls and funding and everything. So from our end, no issues or no conditions would have to be attached to this approval.
So did they bill you separately then for the cost of? Is that included? You said curb removal. Is that curb removal down there or are we talking about?
That'd be curb removal from, Elm Street going south.
Okay.
So the way that reimbursement is gonna work is they will charge the city and MSA will pay the city
Okay.
back for that. So you'll see that come through.
Just wanted to clarify that. Understand what we're working with.
So I'll make a motion to approve pay request number 4 for A1 excavating for $99,911.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. And as long as you're up there,
If you sign that.
can you give us a quick short update on what's,
Yep.
what's sort of gonna happen coming up is,
So they are currently where it stands right now, and as I'm sure you know by now, construction changes every day. But what is happening right now is they are working on the 100 and 200 blocks, removing that curb and gutter, and we'll be laying storm pipe hopefully tomorrow, depending on the weather, in that area to get those structures in. Next week, they're hoping to pour that new curb and gutter in the downtown area, and get the boulevard in kind of beyond that. I don't think that'll be quite next week. It might be the week after that. The lift station startup got delayed because of an issue with getting Excel Energy on site, and some of the storm damage delayed that a little bit, delayed their time getting here. So the lift station is scheduled to be started August 10th, which I think is next Tuesday. So we're the lift station supplier is gonna be on site and walk through everything, kind of checking everything, making sure the pumps are installed right. making sure that all the controls are right. We'll do a drawdown test, which is basically you fill it up and you turn it on and make sure it goes down at the appropriate rate to make sure the pumps are pumping correctly, just to verify everything's working correctly. If there's no hiccups in any of that, they'll take off with connecting the sanitary laterals into the new sewer main so that it can dump into the lift station, which has kind of been why the project's been stalled, is getting electricity to that. So once that's there, the project can kind of take off and run. We are experiencing kind of what you alluded to earlier, really poor soils for about 300 linear feet of road. It's kind of a mix of black slop and sawdust, which is not great to build a road on. And so we're looking at solutions for that as well, to make sure that the parts store doesn't rattle more than it did before. I know they've expressed concern over that. And so, yeah, we're looking at solutions to make sure there's a firm road base there.
Thank you.
So that's where we're headed.
All right. Right. Polk County Visitors Guide, number 7.
So this is what we had last year, and the price is the same. And if we act as on TV, if we act now, we save money.
Yeah.
So I would
But
make
there's
a
more.
I would make a motion that we place an ad in the Polk County Visitors Guide.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. 8, ATV parking for Cattail Trailhead. Anybody who drove by there, it is underway. The flat dirt and sod has been taken off, and 6 inches of crushed blacktop from our inventories have been put down. When it's all said, done, and level, I believe Jeff will talk to Mo, the Polk County Highway Commissioner, and they have approval to blacktop it yet this fall. So they'll come in and blacktop it. They'll probably wait to blacktop it when they're in town, but and it'll be striped. So things are going well.
What's the status of the moving the recycling boxes?
I have talked to Dick Waterman about moving them out to the Lincoln gravel pit out there. And he thought that was a great idea. And he was going to bring it before the board out there. And hopefully we'll hear word from that shortly.
And then the county has to agree to it, I suppose.
With it?
It's their stuff, right?
Yeah.
Or their responsibility.
Yeah. So. Anyway, we got a plan. And right now Lincoln sends them to Amory to put their recycling. I wasn't aware of that. They send them to the closest recycling place, so they can share a little responsibility.
Is it possible, since we will now be officially supporting both, would they put more capacity in place?
I think that would be up to them. If they do, then it all depends how many
Empty it
trips.
more often or put
Right.
more out there, because.
But that's one of the reasons they I assume they're gonna agree with this, because one of the reasons that they're doing this Cattail Trail is to make it more user friendly for the users of Cattail Trail. More parking.
Yep.
So.
Yep, it all works.
Okay. Hanger lease for D4. Being on the airport commission, I guess I can speak to this. Gene Trenda from Amory Welding has decided to learn to fly. And he sold his Amory Welding and fabrication business, and he would went and bought a hangar with to buy an airplane so he can start the flying process. So we need a motion to approve the hangar lease for Dean.
So
Trailhead.
moved.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Are these rates accurate?
Yeah,
9 cents a square foot
Yes.
for 2,700 square feet.
airport commission examining every.
2 years, 3 years?
2 years, I think.
New Richmond is 8.
Just seems low.
New Richmond is 8. So we kind of keep up with what the other neighbors are.
It just seemed like a really low number for square footage.
You're right. I agree.
It's mostly air.
Okay. So where are we?
Motion made and seconded.
Yep, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next on the agenda is library shelving needs.
Good evening. My name is Ashley Long. I'm here on behalf of the Amory Area Public Library Board. I'd like to thank the council for taking the time to consider the shelving request brought forth by the Amory Area Public Library Board this evening. I know this is the second time revisiting it. I would just like to reiterate that the library is governed by its own governing body, the library board. The library board, along with John Thompson, IFLIS director and library consultant, as well as Amory Area Public Library Director Amy Stormberg and staff, have met and worked cohesively and tirelessly to determine the needs of the Amory Area Public Library. After many meetings, discussions, and consultations, it has been determined that the library's needs are those presented to council. The library board appreciates your consideration of financial contribution towards these capital project costs. John Thompson has submitted an updated memo which addresses the additional information requested by council at the last meeting. Thank you.
So are people reading?
Yeah.
It is, okay.
Is this number replacing the 200,000 number that was initially requested?
Yeah, the $200,000 is a preliminary estimate.
Yes.
From the firm that we sent the bid out. So yes, the one.
So this is a more refined. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
And that would be for all new shelving,
Right.
that if it were to be determined that we could use some of the existing shelving, it would reduce from there, possibly up to a third, is what this is saying.
They estimated it would be roughly a third of that cost if we were only to replace what was drawn in that.
Okay. So that would be best case scenario.
It's best case.
And we'll see when they move us, whether they're gonna actually work or not. Okay.
So how does this differ from the July 19th letter from Jody? We have well, she's stated she had a design of that included some old and some new.
Yep.
And so is this
What's being
incorporate the
presented
some
tonight
new?
is just the, if we get all new, which is 132,000.
Yeah.
167.71, and if you use the existing shelving that's currently there and add on the new with that, I believe that's third the cost of it.
1/3 the cost.
That's what it looks like to me.
So the question for us is what are we willing to commit to the library from the city's taxpayer dollars to outfit the new library with 100% of the shelves? Given the fact that everything that's going into the new or into the building from the city's perspective is all used furniture that we've cobbled together from either buying it from Bremer or things that we have here. Same for the police station.
These lovely chairs that we're sitting on are ones that we bought from Bremer as part of our total package.
That was like $8,000.
Yep.
To me, it seems like if now Ayers has said that there's a ability to use the current shelving in there plus new. John is saying not ideal that will work, but it will work. It seems to me like I would be comfortable contributing 1/3 of the cost then, if that's what's new. That's me.
But I'm not, I'm comfortable with that thought process, but I'm not comfortable with the city of Amory coming up with 1/3 of the cost of that. Those figures need to come out of the library budget rather than just out of the city of Amory budget. You know, because I'm pretty sure that we aren't going to get refunded in January because, you know, on our $200,000 or whatever our appropriation level is this year. You know, I think that needs to be share alike. I mean, if they want to go for all new shelving, that's fine too, but that has to be your budget item, not just solely the city of Amory, I don't think.
Well, my understanding of this is, and with the information provided tonight, so the current library space is 4,675 linear feet. The city center new shelving is 4,560 linear square feet, so 115 square feet less. And saying with the center city mix of existing and new would be around 4,000 square feet, so, or I'm sorry, linear feet. So 560 some linear feet would have to be purchased or developed. However, there still is no answer to the question of how much space is going to be needed once we move all the books over to the new library. Are all the shelves filled now? You couldn't provide that answer last time. So I feel that the library has really not done a whole lot to try and keep numbers conservative, keep funding conservative. The city has gone above and beyond to try and accommodate them and to try to make this entire project work. To that avail, I will make a motion that the city allot $10,000 to the library solely for the purchase of shelving. No other things, no chairs, no. You have money for furniture, $10,000 solely for shelving needs.
I think 10,000 is too low, but I don't think it's 45,000 as what a third would, or 43,000 is what it is. But
the library, the Friends of the Library also have funding available. And I believe the number is somewhere north of 150,000. And nonprofits should not have that kind of money. That money is meant to be used. So if they wish to purchase additional shelving, they can do that as well. I think we have a lot of skin in this game already by providing funding for furniture. When they didn't take advantage of the Burma furniture, there was also some giveaway of current furniture for whatever reason. And I think that's a good starting point. We can always, much like with all the other additions, the technology, we can always purchase more in the future. Let's get all the books over there first, see how much room they actually need.
The other question that I have, it's been a question throughout this whole thing, is ownership. Who owns it? Does the city own it? Because it's our tax dollars that are going to it. It's our budget money that's going towards, and it has been all along, to the budget. That's, you know, I would assume where the majority or a lot of the fund balances are coming from. Who owns what's currently there?
My understanding, the City of Amory Library is owned by the city. Am I wrong?
I think hypothetically, yes, you're right. But I think anything that's attached to the building, anything that's part of the building, the cabinetry, the infrastructure, the building itself, that's owned by the city. But anything that they put in there that's not attached, you know, they've got books, they've got pictures. You know, let's say they have a soundboard that they install to make the sound better acoustically in their meeting rooms or things like that. That's, you know, things that they put into the building, and that's theirs. Now the surveillance, those types of things.
Hold on, theirs being
Library.
library board, Friends of the Library. What entity is they?
Library board, library, yep.
Can the library board, by legal definition, have assets?
I think they.
I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I don't think they can really.
So,
Yeah. They've got a large fund balance.
And I only asked that question because the question was posed to me. Okay, if we're not going to be using things, who, and it gets thrown away or disposed of or sold or whatever happens to it, those are assets. Whose assets are actually being reduced?
and if they're city assets, they would need to be disposed under city asset policy.
Correct. So that's the whole question. And I think a lot of that, I mean, we're going into this, I think that's just a question that has been asked of me.
Yeah, and those are their assets. I mean, that's the library's assets, those books, those shelves, that's theirs. And I heard a lot of that was donated, and our city allocation for that, for them to get the books, they spent the money on the books, you know, they have their budget, library board has their budget. So that's their money. But as far as,
You know, but even when a donation's made to the library, I mean, that's a city asset. If the library board cannot possess assets, I think library board is only a governing board.
that helps their library function, so,
May
yeah.
I address that?
Good.
Please do.
Obviously, we're confused by the question, so we're trying to figure it out.
So it's a multi-layered answer. So the facility is a city-owned facility. However, once that facility is acquired for library purposes, it falls under the purview of the library board. So they have authority to administer that facility by statute. By statute, the library board has exclusive control of all funds donated or appropriated to the library. So the fund balance remains under the control of the library board. They are allowed to retain dollar assets, if they receive a donation, that is covered under chapter 43. That falls under the exclusive control of the library board. They have the ability to deposit those dollars into a public depository, transfer those funds to a community foundation. Or the third option is to have those funds with a municipality. But those are the options that are outlined by statute, and it's up to the library board to determine how they manage those dollars.
So how does our library do it?
That I for sure, but I believe they have a now account where they have some of their savings, and then I know. Then
All
the
donations
fund
all donations
balance,
going into, go
the
into the
fund
now.
balance,
Yes.
because it's unspent county and municipal funds is retained in the books of the city, but it's still remains under the exclusive control of the library board. And those dollars are supposed to be like any carryover from any municipal agency, whether it's a city, the school, or whatever. They should be earmarked for expenditure or reserved for a public purpose. So they shouldn't just be reserving dollars just to reserve dollars. So in many cases, it would be to deal with an unfunded life. Maybe there's sick leave payout, retirement payout, especially if the city's not going to say, okay, a staffer retires and we're going to give you extra money to cover that. They have to cover that somewhere. And that's generally why they have those fund accounts. And then if there's a cost overrun, so let's say the city shares 200,000, the county gives it 200,000, that $400,000 budget, if they for some reason go over to 415,000, that fund balance covers that. If there's a surplus, then it goes
So
to the fund.
So what you're saying is general fund would not have to cover any overrun of budget.
In for operational expenses, correct.
Okay.
So what the library shelving and all those equipment pieces, those are capital expenses that are not part of the library's operational budget. That's not part of what the county funds. They fund operational costs of the library.
So this account with those funds, is that a city managed account? Is that a city audited account? What kind of account is that?
So the fund balance account would be audited as part of the city's audit. So your auditor would, and I believe the library fund is a separate fund outside of the general fund. So that beginning balance, fund balance would be whatever was at the end of 2022 or 2020, excuse me. And that's what their beginning fund balance would be in 2021. And then however they spend the money in 2021, if they're over, that fund balance is reduced going into 2022. If they're under, the fund balance increases for 2022. And so your auditing firm would track all those expenses within that.
So now the question is, who owns the library?
So the city physically owns the facility.
Mhm.
The materials that are purchased from donations and library funds, then the library board can dispose of those properties as determined by board action or policy. So like, every year the library buys new materials, and every year the library removes materials because they're dated, whatever. So those dated materials, the library can then sell them. In some cases, libraries would transfer those to a friends organization for them to sell them. That money then,
What
in
about,
essence, goes back to the
what
library.
about furniture and real assets?
So
How are those disposed of? By city, I mean, is it a city asset? So it fall under city asset disposal policy, or is it a library asset?
it's typically a library asset, and however the library board determines to the acquisition, dispose of those, that would be a library board decision. Typically a library may look to see if there's other city departments or other nonprofit agencies that would use it prior to selling it. But that depends on individual library board policies.
So
I have-
basically
I have a
everything.
comment.
Okay.
We had no less than 3 other libraries that came to our Bremer Bank sale and snatched up stuff like crazy.
I have a question for you too, John. In the 2019 library report that we got, we had the 2020, and I totally understand they're skewed. But said that the total transactions, loans, I assume book loans and so on, were 93,532. And then on page 6, it talks about total circulation to non-residents, and I'm a little, what is non-residents mean? It says they're divided in the following categories: circulation to non-residents living in your county. That doesn't mean Minnesota folks, or does it?
No, so,
It's just people that don't reside in the city.
right, so
Okay,
there's that section of the report breaks it down by individuals that live in Polk County, both with a library and without a library. And then it's further broken down by people that might live in St. Croix County that come over, whatever county, those are broken down in there. There is a piece in there that says other Minnesota residents or other state residents.
what determines whether you have, whether you are whether you have a library or not? Do you live in a political subdivision, i.e. the city of Amory, or?
Right, so
Lincoln Township, for instance, is non-resident for this particular, or wherever else.
Whatever municipality has authorized a public library, that is considered a community with a library.
Okay, all right.
So I think for the most part, most of the incorporated cities and villages within Polk County have a public library. In other counties, that's not necessarily the case. But good example would be like Lake Hallie in Chippewa County. There are 9,000 some people, they don't have a library. But so those residents are split up between Chippewa Falls or City of Eau Claire library.
Well, since there's not a second to my motion, I repeal my motion.
So what I got out of that conversation is the Shelving is owned by the library and governed by the library board. And right now, if the library wanted all new shelving without the city's permission, they could go buy that right now. They have the cash in the bank. They have they have the means. And I know part of that is it's not going to be ideal moving the old shelving, but I don't know where the compromise here should be. So we have a bunch of different ideas. So anybody else have anything after hearing what's going on?
They're asked, this is a request to participate financially in a library activity, is what I'm seeing. And 43 or 45,000 is the 1/3 point. I think 45 is probably a real number. The question is, does the city feel obligated to participate or find out how much is actually needed after things are moved? I understand that it's nice to be able to get stuff. It's really hard to move from shelves that you need. You know, it's hard to move and then you have to take everything down and move it to the next. And there's moving costs for the shelves too. But I find it hard to allocate money for something that I don't know exactly what they really, is really required, put it that way.
You make a good point there.
And I'm not opposed to participating in those costs, as long as we can keep them reasonable. I just don't want to see our city taxpayers hung for whatever it costs for new shelving. And then not be able to at least share that with the almost 3/5 of the population that come under the Act 150 monies.
Yeah, I just don't know how to pull that money in here. That's the
No,
one thing.
well,
I don't know
how
to
you
make
pull
happen.
that in, I think, is if the library board buys what they need with their contingency money and then presents that to the city. And we say, we're doing
Participate at a certain level.
we're doing 30,000 out of your 95,000, 30,000 of those visits are the city of Amory. Then I think it'd be very appropriate to pay that percentage, I like I said, I know we need a oar in the water. I just don't want to own a Johnson's 7.5 horse.
Has the library discussed if, I don't even know if I should ask the question, I'll ask it anyway. Has the library discussed the fact that no matter what happens, you're getting all them shelves?
We have not made that determination yet. We need to see, I mean, our experts are telling us new shelves.
Mhm.
This is what we need to make this space and outfit this new space that the city has put us in. So we're working with it. But again, just like the ask started with the 343, and we've worked to dwindle that down. We've gone back to vendors, we've contacted, multiple people as people have referred it. We haven't determined our priority list. We, did prioritize the AV that was not covered by the city. We took care of what we could take care of. And now we have to move on. The moving cost is a big thing. If we have to change that and move the old shelf, that could be $30,000 to $40,000 instead of 10. So there's a big, we haven't looked at it because there's the long list of stuff that's going on. And we haven't been able to determine what is the top priority because we don't know what the city will be contributing financially.
The reason I was asking is if the library was considering to get all new shelves altogether, that linear feet is 4,560. If there's a mix, it's 4,000. If we take the difference, we're talking about if the city were to contribute that difference to bring them up to that total, that's $16,231. If you take the total linear feet, whether that's the right way to do it or not, I don't know. This is another way to look to see, okay, well, of all of the shelves that you want, this is a portion that you would get on top of what you would be doing if you had a mixed use. Again, I don't know if that was the right way to calculate it or not, but
Well,
that's another way to think about it.
You got to look at it some way.
Yeah.
So, and the other interesting part is the moving expense. And I do think we need to share, fairly heavily in that because this is an advantage. I mean, this is to our advantage.
That's a cost due to the move.
Yes, I think so too. And that was what 10,000 estimate was as much as $10,000.
Which is probably more if you move more things.
Yeah, that's just the collection. If we move the shelving included, it could be an additional $30,000 to $40,000.
Yeah, well, we ain't spending 40,000 to move it, but the books and the stuff like that, I hesitate to hang that on the city crew because that is, they don't have time to do that this year. So I know, I mean, I'm in favor of participating in the
Moving costs.
I wanted to make a point. When we moved all the 3 floors of the Bremer building, that was $9,000. And they moved all that.
Yeah, the books are the
lot of
big
weight.
elephant in the room because they're heavy.
Those desks were too heavy for 3 guys to lift up in Bremer.
Yeah. Yeah, and a box of books is probably too heavy, only one good box of books is probably too heavy for a couple guys to lift too, so,
But I'm just saying, that was 3 whole floors
yeah.
of their building, so. If we could put some of that into perspective too.
So we can kick it down the road and say, come back with more, or we can just come up with a number and move on.
I think either you
And
can
you
come
came
up
up
with a
with-
number now,
Might do
or
both.
you wait until afterwards and then
Yeah, you might do
see what
both.
the true costs are and then determine the number.
Yeah, you could provide the starting number. And if it has to be revisited, that's future business.
So you want to use that 16,000 as a starting number? Is that what you're saying?
I would round it to 20.
It's based on making up the difference in capacity.
Yeah.
Make a motion.
I'll make a motion to allocate $20,000 to the library for shelving.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
I,
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay,
Is there anything in here about the sidewalk?
no, I was
They
gonna.
won't look.
I was gonna post just a little bit. We have a section of sidewalk that has sunk, what, about 2 inches? Yep, that's gonna have to be replaced or mud jacked up and the seal across the building fixed. It could be removed and silt fence put, or a silt thing put in there. But right now, it's dropped down after 25 years. It's dropped down, pulled away from the building. The water comes down that just happens to be where the roof drain is.
Yeah.
So we gotta fix it. Work with Patty and Jeff to do some, find some engineers what to do. I mean, it hasn't dropped much. It's solid underneath. How do we seal it up? So we use a membrane, a jacket with new caulkings or whatever, but I think we'll let a engineer look at that. And
Engineer's job, yeah.
yeah,
And that's just
Where
one
in the
section of
building is
sidewalk
this?
that wasn't included in the Pope's plan.
it's right outside the south.
And when you
North-
walk out, you can
west
see
corner.
where it is. Has some.
It's where the safe deposit boxes are
Oh,
on the
that's-
inside, in that corner.
so
Yeah, right there.
northwest corner.
Wasn't part of that already gonna be roofed up for a ramp?
Yeah, but not
No,
that side.
no,
Not
Graham's on the
that
other
side,
side,
okay,
right,
it's the
so-
opposite side, I
Yeah,
understand.
that's why we're proposing, we'll just get that looked at.
So,
I don't think we should put a Band-Aid on it, fix it.
No, I don't,
well,
I don't
that's what
either.
the, and you're
Tear it
right,
out and
but,
put new cement in.
well, that's not gonna fix it, I don't think.
No.
Let's talk to the engineer, because it
They'll-
has to
they'll have do
be,
something to the wall.
it has to be something that's flashed and permanent, so it doesn't, because it could pull away in another 25 years and leak there too. Because the roof drain's not changing,
Yeah, the
so.
roof drain, if it splashes, it'll go right behind that. So we
Yeah.
want to fix it so it's.
Should
So you don't
the
have
roof
any
drain drain be
So-
changed to? go
That's
through the sidewalk?
that was my suggestion also. You change the roof thing, raise it up, it's gonna flow away. Anyway, we'll talk to the engineer,
Just wanted to give
like
you a heads up
errors
on
and.
that,
Okay.
'cause
and-
That's a change.
Okay, a motion to go in closed session? Okay, roll call?
Sturbush?
Yep.
Van Blaricon?
Yes.
Planum?
Yes.
Leonard?
Yes.
Elder?